Hello, everyone, and welcome to Painless Universal Conversation with myself and Welsh. Today, we'll be talking about being in a wheelchair pain. So many people in the world, around the world, they're in a wheelchair. They could get this from having a genetic disorder, from health condition, having an accident. So many things might lead you to this path, not knowing that this causes enormous amount of pain. My guest today, Andraéa, we'll be talking about her own challenges. She became disabled from an illness which is called the muscular dystrophy. She suffered this from a tender age at 2 and has been reliant on others to help her all through her life. But this didn't stop her. She went on as an adult to set up a communication called LaVant communication, empower others to understand and speak more openly about disability rather than hide it underneath the carpet. I love her so much because she's taking part in a short future documentary called Prick Camp. As an impact producer, she worked on this documentary to help people understand the meaning and importance of being disabled, how that affected people from early on in life to now, and how they've been told that they can't do these things or they're going to die early because of their disability, but still living on today. She would also tell us about her big moment on the Oscar red carpet, being the first Black woman in a wheelchair to attend the Oscar red carpet, what that moment meant to her, and why she wants other women to follow her, especially disabled people, to follow her on this path. Meet my lovely guest, Andraéa LaVant, as we talk about these important issues that affect so many people around the world, but very little people are willing to do anything about it. Let's see how she's doing it, and let's talk about wheelchair users' pain, disability pain. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Painless Universal Conversation with myself and Welsh. This disability pain is something we all suffer from, and whether it's invisible or visible. So many people with their challenges still find it very difficult to get by in life because of the stereotype, people asking questions, people not wanting you to fit in their circles. My guest today will tell us that it doesn't matter what challenge you face, you could always find your joy. Meet Andraéa LaVant. Andraéa, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Very well, very well. And where are you joining me from?
I am in Phoenix, Arizona. Uh,
Wow, what's the weather like there?
it is 100 plus degrees here.
I hope you're coping well. I hope you're managing it. Not
Yes, yeah, the air is working, so that's what matters.
that's all that's perfect. You look wonderful, by the way. You're so beautiful. I'm so glad you took the time out to join me today because your story is truly inspiring. I probably didn't give the whole synopsis because I thought it's always best it comes from you. Before we go into all of that, can you tell us a little bit about if anyone asks, who are you? How would you describe yourself?
Ah, an incredibly proud Black disabled woman. Yeah.
Oh, I like
Mhm.
that. I like
Mm.
that. That fits all different categories. I remember when I was working in investment banking role, and they will always look for a role to place me in because I have a chronic illness myself.
Mhm.
And they say, we can fit you into all these boxes. I said, well, what are they? You're black, you're
Mhm.
and you have a chronic illness, so you're kind of disabled. So we put you to that. And I was very fascinating that meet you and you actually describe yourself in that way. Incredible Black disabled woman. That's
Mhm.
really fascinating. I love that.
Thank
The
you.
story is truly amazing. You were diagnosed at the tender age of 2 with the
Mhm.
genetic disorder. And I can never say, could you help us with this disease? Because I have sickle cell anemia myself.
Okay, got
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So a lot, it's a blood disorder, and I'm always open to talk about it. Could you tell us a little bit about your own diagnosis and how it affects you?
Sure. So my diagnosis is spinal muscular atrophy. It is a form of muscular dystrophy that essentially it's a neuromuscular diagnosis. So it generally, I mean, it affects most of my muscles. The primary thing that kind of people see is that I don't walk, so I'm a wheelchair user and have been pretty much my entire life. And it also just in general limits my overall physical mobility and strength.
Mhm.
So have generally needed support or assistance for most of my, life, just with what we consider activities of daily living. So that's it's the life that I've known. Like you said, I was diagnosed when I was 2, and so it's what I know.
You know, when you look back at growing up and when you were in school, seeing all the other kids not in wheelchair, and there you are in a
Mhm.
wheelchair, having to depend so much on others to help you get by, did you ever ask yourself, why me?
Oh yeah, all the time, all the time. Um, but it's so funny you would ask that because I found my mom sent me a letter the other day from when I mean, it must have been, it was like a story I was writing when I guess I was like 7 or 8 years old because I've always liked to write. And essentially, what I was saying is that, we all have been made, I think I said, like God has made us all unique and we're all here, to basically to help someone. I think I talked about like we're given the right parents and like all of this so that we can make a difference and help someone else. So I think it's interesting that even then, um, as much of a struggle as it definitely was at times to feel included, and to feel like quote unquote normal. I think I've always had a sense that even in the times of why me, what I have come to embrace, is kind of a more of a why not me mentality. Yeah.
Wow, that's a really interesting way of looking at it. Why not me? Rather than looking at why me, why not me? So
Right.
you and so younger generation who's just recently been diagnosed with this, and what would you say to them in just in general in terms of fitting in and in terms of getting by in life?
Mhm. I think it really is, and it's a journey that I think that we probably all are on in various ways. Is really um, understanding, coming to embrace the idea that while, externally different, um, disability is just, it's another aspect of who you are. Doesn't make you broken, doesn't make you, unworthy in any way. It really just means that you might have different needs that you're, um, may need to navigate things a little bit differently. And, my personal mission is kind of to ensure that the wider world understands that value and that worth and helps to create um, a culture to, environments where we can really be included. And I say that because, for young people, it's not that you've done anything wrong. It's really that society needs to continue to evolve and to adjust, so that we can really be who it is that we've been designed to be. Because
Mm.
that's all it is. It's really
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong.
yeah. It's just society letting us who we are designed to be. I think that's a good take home. You finally found it in yourself to find your joy, to overcome your disability and move forwards and achieve great things. When did
Mhm.
you realize, you say great words, but when did you realize I need to embrace who I truly am, who God has brought me to this world as? I need to.
Mhm.
So when did you realize this pain? I'm not going to keep living with you. I need to now
Mhm.
embrace you.
I realized it when I acknowledged the fact that it was that why not me kind of it's not a I realized it when there was a moment and I was living in Washington D.C. in my mid 20s, and I had spent most of my life trying to conceptually overcome my disability or get people to like not see my disability, to not, to basically overcompensate for, and kind of say, oh wait, I don't even notice that you're disabled, and like all of this stuff. And what happens with that is that then you realize that in getting people to like not see the disability, then they really aren't acknowledging the whole of who you are. And in the same way that I'm proud of being a Black person, or being a woman, why should I have to hide that aspect of who I am? Because it does really shape my views, my perspectives, the creativity that I might have. And so I think that for me, it was kind of in this moment in my 20s when I realized, hey, the world actually isn't built for me yet, and there's some work that needs to be done. And if I don't acknowledge first within me, um, that this is what it is, and I can't make a difference like I want to. And it was kind of the concept of, it's not about me, it's really about um, using the gifts that I've been given um, you know, to change systems, to change society, to change the, whatever it may be, community. And so the only way that really can happen is, like they say, you have to start with yourself. So
Yeah, and you took that further. You didn't, and once you finally realized that you've accepted who you are, you took it further. You started your consulting firm, which is an Arizona-based social impact communication firm that specializes in helping brands speak disability with confidence. When did you realize, okay, I'm now this individual who has this disability. I'm on a wheelchair. I'm making an impact with myself, but you realized there was a gap, and you wanted to do this. When did you realize this gap and the need to make this to create this consultant firm?
yeah, that's a really great question. I worked in nonprofit for over a decade. And so I was working with, within the nonprofit space also, which meant that I was kind of connecting with a variety of different entities, corporations, big companies that were funders, government, federal agencies here in the US. Um, and the consistency that I found was that it wasn't so much that people don't want to engage with, or include this people with disabilities in the things that they're doing. It's actually that they just don't know how, they're fearful of getting it wrong, and so they just kind of don't touch it. And so for me, my educational background is in public relations communications. For me, communication is key. And so it's really, was thinking about, wow, there's all kind of, it's kind of all the same. What, no matter what industry you're in, people, they just want to know how. I think we're in a day and age where, it isn't, it really isn't malice that people get things wrong most of the time. It's just because they don't know. And so for me, it was, okay, what can I do? What can we do to help bridge those gaps, to kind of be the liaison between the disability community, as we call it, and these entities, organizations or whatever, to help them understand how we desire to be spoken to, spoken about, included in your workplace, included in, your advertising, included as consumers, included, as the world's largest minority group. I mean, in essence, um, and there's ways of doing that in such a way that people, everybody, both, disabled people, can really continue to see themselves reflected in the best ways, right? And then also that companies can really feel better about the work that they're doing.
Mm. That's truly amazing because I think more and more companies need to do this, and then it's also easier for them. Because I think I always say to people, when you understand a problem, it's easy to integrate and solve that problem. But when you shy away because you don't know, you exclude the very, 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 very best in class, because sometimes people you think are not the best because probably they have some kind of disability. Just you just losing out on talent. And I think it's something I'm so glad that you started this communication to give the guidelines and help them out in what they do. And that leads me on to my next question, because you are, I would say, you're an impact producer for the
Uh-huh.
future length documentary Crip Camp.
Uh-huh.
I watched it. It's on Netflix in the United Kingdom, so I watched it. It's really like clips from a lot of olden days, so it shows disability in the olden times, and it
Yeah.
also and have this conversation with these guys when they're older, thinking they've given lifespan of probably 5 years old, 20 years old, and these guys have lived on for much longer than those guys expected them to. And it talks about the challenges they had to overcome those days. You are an impact producer for this movie. What led you to take on this role for such a beautiful, beautiful documentary?
Well, it's what you said. You talked about the fact that it was essentially a film that chronicles a time, back in the 1970s, where this group of teenagers with disabilities is going. They meet at this camp, Camp Jeanette, and they develop this community where they can belong, right? As disabled people, they can be their full selves and also, experience life in all of the ways that we deserve to. And then from that, because of the community that they built there, they were able to, then kind of go out into the world collectively and actually shift the law, shift systems to ensure that ultimately what led to the Americans with Disabilities Act, that, the equal rights legislation for disabled folks here. And what led me to do it is because the very things that they were talking about in the 1970s were the same things that I was talking about, with my friends in high school in the, late 90s, early 2000s. It's the same conversations that I have with young people now that are, still in high school and graduating. And so for me, it was the acknowledgement that, you know, multiple things. It's great because you do it, everybody wants that experience of me too. Oh my gosh, these are my people. This is, how I can relate to this so much. And to be able to get behind something that I could relate to was incredibly significant also because of my background working in disability prior to. I had a knowledge of these stories, but I knew that most people didn't.
Mm.
And and so I really wanted, I was grateful for the opportunity to be able to help get it out into the world. And then the other reason that I took it on was understanding that what the film does share is the perspective of a few people, right? Particularly the primary perspectives were of white disabled people. And so I knew as a Black disabled woman, and I was incredibly grateful that the filmmakers acknowledged that there are still more stories to tell, including those that are at the intersections of, race and of sexuality and gender and all of that. And so, as impact producer, our role is to help take the messaging of a film and leverage it for change. And so for me, it was not just telling that singular story that's found in Crip Camp, but it's about how many other stories need to be told. How can we continue to elevate intersectional conversations so that we can ultimately create a more inclusive society that embraces every aspect of a person's identity.
And what people don't know, probably I don't know if anyone watches the movie, what they don't know is that the movie was produced by former presidents Barack Obama and Michelle Obama production company. I mean, that is just a big name to have attached to
Mhm.
that movie, and their company Higher Grounds. Do you
Yeah.
know why they were so keen on that particular angle of the story?
Yeah. So President Obama talks about the fact that, for him, I mean, he started out grassroots. He started out community as a community organizer. And so that's the very thing that you see in Crip Camp is the power of building community to make change happen. And so for them, I think there was seeing young people. He started out as a young person, you know what I mean? And so they could see, they knew the power of that journey. And so they got behind it. I think, there's no one that does not have a connection to disability in one way or another. And so they also acknowledge that, Mrs. Obama's father has a mess, I know that, there are other family members that they're connected to that had, disabilities. And so we're always, if you're not disabled, either you know somebody that is, or if you live enough long enough, you will be. You know what I mean? It's the one minority group that you will somehow touch at some point in life, for sure.
One of your key things is that you focus on mentoring. You always ask, say people, one of your biggest impacts of mentoring has been that you said, without mentors, I literally would not be here. That these guys, whoever have mentored you, have shaped you to the person you are. And mentoring for you, you said, is more than just access to advice and wisdom. That is access to possibilities. I love
Mhm.
that. I mean, not just because everyone thinks when I think of a mentor, I think, oh, someone's just gonna advise me and give me wisdom, guide me day by day. But you said it's access to possibility. Um,
Mhm.
can you explain what you mean by that?
Yeah, I think especially when you don't see yourself reflected in mainstream society, um, mentors, people that have gone before you in various ways, whether it's someone that looks just like you or not, is really showing you what's possible. Okay, like I can do that. I can be that. I remember the first time I was in elementary school, and the bookkeeper at our school, her daughter was a wheelchair user. I think she was in college at the time, and she had a car, like a vehicle that she drove in her wheelchair. And I remember, her coming to pick me up to go to the movies. And I was like, before then, I never knew that I'd be able to drive, like, oh, wow. And so once I saw her at, 10 years old driving, it automatically placed in there became no question about whether I would drive. You know what I mean? Because once I had seen it, then I knew it was possible. So then I moved on to the next thing. And so once we, can see people in one way or another that have some aspect of our lived experience, then it opens up our eyes to what's what's possible and even beyond that. Because then it's like, okay, I can drive. What kind of car do I want to drive? You know what I mean? Or what? And so even still, where do I want to work? Okay, if I see a disabled lawyer, well, now I can be a disabled congressperson. You know what I mean? Like that's what mentorship is really.
So, what did it mean for you to be induced in the Susan Daniels Disability Mentoring Hall of Fame? I think you were part. They were invited you to be part of it, right?
Yeah. So what's really cool is Susan Daniels was a mentor of mine when I first started out working in disability space. And it's funny because, I could talk about, her various roles from a career perspective. But what I remember about her, because she worked in the building down the street or she lived in the building down the street from where I lived, wheelchair user, power wheelchair user. I would see her getting on the train a lot. And it was her vibrant personality, and she always wore red lipstick, you know? And so for me, again, it was acknowledging, because to me, when you wear red lipstick, like that means you don't care, right? Like you're wearing it now, right? You are like you're so confident, you're confident about who you are. You're willing to take up space. You don't care what anybody says. I am who I am. This is, you know what I mean? And so
Taking
uh
up that. Yeah, well, yeah, I'm just, there's nothing I can say
this
about
is who I am, right? Yeah. So that was Susan. That was Susan. She did not, I am who I am. And so I think for me being inducted to the Hall of Fame was um, you know, over a decade after meeting her, and she passed away some years ago, just thinking about how shy I was at the time. I remember, I was in my, mid to late 20s, having just moved to DC from, Nashville, and how I really had not gotten to the place of um, really embracing, my identity as a disabled person, and how I remember getting on the train and kind of like, oh, I don't want to take, like, oh, let me get in this corner and nobody see me, now. And you heard the way I introduced myself, right? Like it's a vast difference, and I think that it's certainly in part to people like her.
let's talk with the Oscar red carpet. Um, that is just a phenomenal thing. I saw the picture. I thought, whoa,
Yeah,
this is this lady. She's just taking her space where it belongs. And you said that you're trying you before you used to remain invisible. You didn't want to be seen. You wanted just to hide right in the corner. And all of a sudden, you are in the Oscar red carpet, taking pictures with all kinds of people, all kinds of celebrities, and you said your hope and your wish is that you are not going to be the last black woman, because I think there've been other race doing it. The black, you were probably one of the first black woman disability on a wheelchair to actually do it. So you were determined not to make it the last.
yeah.
What was that moment like for a girl who's always been very shy, didn't want to be in the public eye, didn't want anyone to know about her work, happily working in the background, now taking on the red carpet space? What was that like?
Oh man, what was that like? It was surreal. I mean, to be honest with you, I think just knowing how hard I used to not want to be seen, um, and or specifically not because of my disability. Anything that I did was like, oh, okay, look nice, dress nice, because I don't want you to see disability, and to be there, like in full, fullness, is I mean, just the utmost, I think, gratitude. And I would say it's a reflection of a lot of internal hard work. You know what I mean? To be honest, of really accepting, the accepting of who I am, who I was, created to be. And I really continue to, that statement that I said about not being the last, is that there's not there's not a bone in my body that that does anything for my, because it's about me. Because quite frankly, all of those things are stretches in terms of my comfort zone, but it really is about, creating, using the platform that I'm very grateful that I've been given to bring visibility in such a way so that the world sees it and invites more of us there. You know what I mean? And so I saw it as an opportunity. I saw it as the moment to trailblaze, knowing that like I could kind of internally see all these people, my community, within our community, like coming with me.
That's really truly amazing. Our final question is that you said it's not about pity. We don't
Hmm.
need pity, you said proudly. What
Hmm.
we need is your commitment to help build a better world. That is truly amazing. Not
Hmm.
about pity. I don't need pity. I need your commitment to build a better world. Just
Hmm.
in your own in your own words, what this really means to you.
Yeah, we don't, charity is not what we need. We don't need your handouts. We don't need you to give us anything. We need you to, basically to acknowledge that, I mean, disability it's a part of the human experience. And in all of the other ways that I think the world is, kind of embracing diversity, in all of its forms. The disability is that it's an aspect of diversity. It is an aspect of humanity. Um, and when we really embrace the idea that everybody has value, everybody is worthy, everybody, belongs. Like, what it really requires then is a commitment from everybody, disabled and non-disabled, to, really create, or to do their part to ensure that everyone feels that way. So whether that's, from an accessibility standpoint, physical accessibility, making sure that your spaces, can include people of all types of disabilities from a workplace perspective, to your mindsets, to really, opening your mind to, um, embrace the idea that we're here, and that we should be accepted, and that it isn't about be overcoming. Because quite frankly, like, I'm still a wheelchair user. I've not overcome, like, the wheelchair. What I've done is, it's really, I'm here because of, that lived experience. And so, um, we just want the world to see that.
And we hope they will because you've really shining a light on a critical subject. People think, oh, it's just easy, that we've accepted it, that so much campaign is being done. But in reality, there's still so much that needs to be done. And there's still more vocal voices like yourself that needs to keep talking about it and shining and putting this beautiful spotlight, especially the fact that you're so black. There's a more disadvantage towards the black when you are disabled because we
Mhm,
already go through normal challenge just being normal human beings, but when
mhm.
you have a disability added to it, it's then this extra challenge, but you've overcome them all in your own way. You found a way to find your joy, and this is something that pleases me about yourself. Do you have any final words you would like to say to the world out there?
No, I don't. Do I have any final words? Um, I can't think, other than just, really what we said. It's just, come along. It's like, come along for the ride. You know what I mean? Come along, create, do your, when we all make a commitment to ensure that we all feel like we are welcome in a space, I think it ultimately creates a better world. So,
Yeah. Thank you so much, Andrea, for this beautiful conversation. And I wish you all the best with everything you do. This is truly amazing. Thank you.
thank you.